Upper Deck Extended is here, and the Stanley Cup Final is in full swing. You're listening to the Hockey Card Haven podcast. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. This is episode 80 of the Hockey Card Haven podcast, a weekly show diving deep into the world of hockey card collecting, flipping, and investing. A reminder, you can find this podcast free and available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube as well. I'm your host, Mike Distefano, Anthony Santini, my co-host, and big day in the hobby, a long anticipated day where Upper Deck Extended has officially been released to the wild, and as per usual and as predicted, people going crazy looking for this stuff.
Oh man, it was crazy today just trying to find a box. Every store that I contacted sold out. Luckily, almost pretty much with half an hour to go left before closing, Doze was able to hook me up with a box. And man, this UD Extended is one of the best that we've seen probably since it released during COVID. We were talking about that yesterday, and I think it's going to be carried by the game jersey stuff. Looking at some of the sales have been ridiculous so far. People going crazy for Upper Deck Extended. Pretty successful release on day one so far.
I think so. And everyone's always excited for flagship, but this one was going to be a little bit different. You know, obviously they've done a really good job. Like I've listened to Billy Cilio. He's joined the Gong Show guys multiple times and has discussed Upper Deck's plans to, you know, really beef up their extended. They realized that the first couple of years it was a flop, for lack of a better term. Pretty much the Young Guns class couldn't necessarily carry itself as its own product. So they knew that they had to add something to make it desirable. And obviously they came up with this idea to add these UD game use patches. So, you know, you obviously have the 101s that everyone's looking for out of all the top rookies in the class. There's also just the plain jersey cards, like debut game jerseys, just the swatch. And then obviously there's the jersey autos as well. So there's different variations of the cards that are in here, and everyone's looking for that Schaefer, and Brady Martin himself looking for the Brady Martin 101. If someone finds that, make sure you get in touch with him, because he's got a bounty on, I think a 5K bounty on that card. And all the other top players, obviously, everyone wants to get a piece of Extended and get one of these cool cards. I ripped into a box. I did. I couldn't help myself. I bought 2 boxes. I ripped into one. We'll see what I do with the other one. I might rip it on the channel, rip it on the podcast, or maybe I'll put it away. I don't know. We'll have that conversation in a second. Unfortunately, I did not end up with the debut game used jersey. Maybe it's in the other box, but the one that I got did not, unfortunately, have it. They are, super short printed. They are SPs, even the regular jersey ones. They're not easy to get. They are case hits, and sometimes more than case hits. But I got to tell you, I think they hit it out of the park, and this is a real legitimate, like, these are chase cards that people are definitely going to be buying up this product for a little while, I think.
Oh, 100%. I think too, one of the interesting things for me, we're so accustomed to the not from a specific event or maybe getting a game used jersey that I was kind of worried, and only really getting eyes on the debut jerseys today, where I could flip it over on the back and look at the back of the card to see what it says, looking at the eBay sales, hang
on. You thought that they were putting out game debut jersey cards and not having them be from the debut? That's literally the whole point of them. You needed to see it on the back of the card to actually believe it. Is that what you're telling me?
Sometimes with Upper Deck, I need to see it. I was getting worried. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just game used jersey, but I mean, it's awesome to see from on the back of the card. I think the specific wording was certified to be used in their NHL debut, which is amazing. Yeah. Super short printed, amazing. I think the card looks great too. As a side note, I've always liked horizontal cards better than vertical cards. But the one thing, like I said, I was worried about was that it was going to be similar to that UD game jersey, where it's just game used from their rookie year, and it's kind of like a big picture type of ordeal. But NHL debut jersey, awesome stuff. One of one chase, amazing stuff. The patch being completely different from just the generic blue or white or orange,
Yeah.
whatever it is. The question I had for you too, because I was talking about one of my buddies that collects baseball, and he wants to get his hands on one of these Schaefers, but he wishes that they had like an NHL debut patch, kind of like how they have it with the MLB.
Yeah.
Believe they're also getting that in the NFL, or is it the NBA that's also
No,
doing that?
they well, Topps owns all the leagues now, so they're gonna do it with all of them at this point. This is the NHL. They didn't want to completely rip off Topps and do exactly what they did, so this is their version of it. And the one-on-ones, instead of it being like an NHL debut patch like you see in the other sports, they used different parts of the jersey. So whether it was the tag or like certain seams, maybe it had their name written in it, easily identifiable and cool different ways to display it, truly making it a one of one. So I don't think we're going to see patches, maybe one day, I guess we could possibly, but again, just listening to Billy Cilio talk about this, an Upper Deck representative talk about what they wanted to do with these patches and this product. They didn't want to rip off what Topps is doing with the debuts, and that's why they kind of put their own little spin on it. So based off of that, I don't think we're going to see the specific patches anytime soon, and I'm okay with that. I think that these look, cool. Like obviously, there's just the swatch jerseys, the ones with autographs as well, but like the one-on-ones, those are unique. Those look awesome, and I'm okay with it. Each one of them looking a little bit different too, not just the same generic little patch that you're going to see with every other one, with all the logo mans and the shields and all that. You have those with shields, essentially. You got that with a shield. These are a little different, and I think that it lives perfectly in this product and extended series.
I think having it different too makes it better because, like you said, it's so generic with the MLB, the NBA, the NFL. I believe all three leagues having their own separate sort of version of it. But for the NHL, I believe the one-on-ones are all the tags that are on the inside of the jersey, like you said, which I personally think is way better. I think it like makes it unique, makes it look great. Even some of them are specialized to the players too.
Yeah,
It has like writing of the date. I know Easton Cowan's had a cool little photo. Matthew Schaefer's, Matt Misa's. Like, I mean, look at that. That is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That is a beauty.
So there's those, and then obviously, there's what else we got here. Anyways, that's the main one, obviously, that we're looking at there, the Schaefer. And then you do have other cool ones, but like that Schaefer is kind of the big chase, I guess, that we're looking for here. I'll just pull it back up for those who missed it there. Like New York Islanders official game patch, and like that, you're not gonna see that again. Like, where are you gonna see something like this? You're not going to. Like it's different. You actually have the team logo in there. You have the words official game, and it's from the jersey, from the tag, and it's a lot cooler than like the tag where it's just the piece of white with black, writing on it. This is cool. Like this is different. Like you don't see, these come in cards ever realistically. So for them to be part of 101 debut game jerseys, I think are awesome. And seems like the hobby is definitely on board, excited for this stuff too. Cause yeah, as you mentioned, it's been a hot commodity. It's been tough. A lot of stores are running out on day one. The price point's a little higher than I think a lot of people wanted it to be. Like I know most stores you're looking at like $200 plus tax. So you're looking at like 226, I guess is what it would come to with taxes, which for flagship, you don't love having to pay over $200 on a flagship box. Now, it's not quite what you had to pay for Bedard here, right? Those Bedard boxes when they came out. But I thought we had gone back to like the 160, 170 range. We obviously saw that in series 2 and in series 1 with them coming out at more reasonable prices on release day. It seemed as though saw a lot of like 199s and 219s out there. Little bit high, I guess, but the demand is there for it. and maybe the 101s, like just a little bit more of a manufacturer cost of these is why. I don't know. But yeah, it's is what it is. $200 a box. Most people didn't mind paying it. I picked up two, didn't really blink, didn't bat an eye, to be completely honest with you. My question to you though is, Anthony, it's a conversation that I know that you had. Like, I grabbed two and you're like, oh, you should open one and keep one tucked away. I know you went and bought one. What are you doing with your one and only box that you got? Like, do you believe that there could be some future value to holding this piece of wax in particular? Because it is the debut of the debut game jerseys.
Well, I think for sure for this set of extended, I think that if you're able to pick up some hobby boxes, it's definitely worth it. Like, I'm not much of a wax collector. I want to start getting into collecting wax. And before we started recording, one of the things that I mentioned to you was the great idea of maybe grabbing up one box of hobby and kind of stashing it away for every flagship set that comes out. And I think I want to start looking to do that because starting with this set extended, like you said, the debut of the game jersey, which we've gone crazy about, the hobby's gone crazy about. And I don't know if anyone's been looking on Card Ladder, but the buyers are going nuts. $400, $500, $600, only a couple sales in these game jerseys. But for this box in particular, $200 is a pretty decent entry point for a crazy set that I think is going to hold, the hockey market as a competitor to the MLB, the NHL, the NFL, because people from that side of collecting look at hockey and they think, all right, like you got the young guns, which we've talked about it for 80 episodes now. The young guns are getting boring. Sure, future watches and the cup are great and all, but young guns is really what people kind of look to. And now that there's this new entry point for collectors to collect high-end Game U debut jerseys, I think that this is a really good start for what Upper Deck has to come in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree, and I was just posting up on the screen here a sale from today. Matthew Schaefer, obviously, he's the big chase, but $750, and it's just the plain jersey. This isn't even the autograph version, and obviously, it's not the 101. But just $800 for just the plain jersey, game used debut jersey. And, I saw someone say something along the lines of, that's insane. You could buy the same McDavid rookie jersey. Remember they used to do the rookie materials back in the day? You could buy the same McDavid one for like $200, $250. Here's the difference between those two. I'm not so certain that those are game used. I think they are event worn, if anything, player worn jerseys. And it definitely was not a jersey that was cut from the same one he wore in his debut game. That is what makes these far more lucrative and collectible, in my opinion, than the rookie materials in the past. So I've seen that debate online where people are looking at the prices of these and saying that's insane. You can get Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, you can get Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews for a tenth of the price of what people are paying for Matthew Schaefer. And granted, $800, okay, maybe it's a tad high. It is release day. Usually prices are quite high on release day, but it's a completely different card and a completely different market, in my opinion. I don't think you could look at it the same way. Here's the McDavid one we were talking about. Sure, you could buy this card, right? The rookie materials card. But if you look on the back, it's event used, not game used, and not debut game used, which to me adds a premium in value, which is obviously the reason why these cards are going to be a big time collector's piece moving forward, no matter who the player is.
Well, like I said earlier, it wasn't. So, I mean, I did expect, I won't lie, I did expect to have the game used, even though it did say UD debut, whatever it might be, as a kind of maybe Upper Deck move-ish, if we want to call that, because like you said, the rookie material Connor McDavid, okay, it looks great. It's a similar idea, but event use is even worse than game use and even worse than not debut game jerseys. So It's a great idea from Upper Deck. I love the word slam dunk. I love the word grand slam. It's more than a home run. It's a grand slam here, I think, for this set. There's a couple other things that you've noticed too with photo variations in this set also. So a lot of good ideas that came out of this extended series. And I think the overall idea is if you could still get this box for 200 to 220 Canadian this week, not financial advice, but a good investment that you can hold on to and honestly look back and say, okay, this is what and how hockey is going to compete with some of the other sports, with how cool the debut game jerseys are. So I think this is a great set and honestly a grand slam from Upper Deck.
Yeah, no, I agree. They've done a great job with this. Let's take a look at some of the sales that we're seeing from Extended here today. Let me see if I type it in. The easiest way to get this is sometimes you don't obviously get all of the sales right away onto Card Ladder. We'll do our best to try and see what we can get. But we got Igor Chernishev Young Guns, 40 knots, so about $50. Here's one of those photo variations of your boy, Patty Kane. $30 for a Patty Kane Team USA photo variation actually seems rather cheap, to be completely honest with you. Jacob Fowler Young Guns, who we expected to be one of the top chases behind Beckett Seneke. $110 seems to be about the going rate, between 100 and 125 for Jacob Fowler, the goaltending prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. Yaroslav Shemlar is the name there. I actually pulled in the box I got his extended or his Young Guns Outburst. So if anyone's looking for this, any Rangers collectors looking for his Outburst, I do have one. I also pulled this Sam Dickinson Young Guns canvas as well. What, this guy had the same box as me, apparently, or whatever. Two of them back to back that I got. Here's what I was looking for: Beckett Seneke Young Guns. So 157 is one here, but I've seen it kind of selling for like 200. I've seen a lot of 200 sales on that card. Just trying to see if I can find another one to kind of match that. But I know 200 has kind of been like a going rate for it. Like Beckett. I'm just going to do that because his last name I will definitely butcher. 157, 168, Outburst for 460, 200 on the Raw, 240 on the Raw. Outburst at 670, 180. So, prices anywhere from, we'll say 160 to 200 for a Beckett Seneke Young Guns, which is, the Chase Young Guns in the product. Obviously, Schaefer's got his, his acetate and his canvas, which is in there as well, which are, variations that are going to be more highly sought after than Beckett Seneke. But when we're talking the Young Guns base cards, he is the Chase. And 160 to 200 is about the going rate. I would not pay this personally. And Anthony and I, every single year Flagship comes out, we tell you guys, don't get FOMO. Do not buy these cards on release day. They always, nearly always come down. Obviously, Celebrini, a bit of a different situation, but he's the exception to the rule where everyone else usually ends up going down after release day. And like we said, Seneke going for about 200 earlier in the day. It's already down to like 160. We saw it. Last sale was 157. So it's already dropped like $40 on release day alone. And I don't think it'll be long before this thing's, at about $100 or so. If not even dipping into like the $80 range. And that's maybe when you'll want to pick up a Beckett Seneke. But the Young Guns aren't necessarily the big chase in this product anyway. But I would hold off on buying the raw single Young Guns here for a little while, because prices are still quite high for these guys if you're looking to get them on release day or within the next few days.
Even still, I'd love to go back, watch a couple episodes of us talking about Celebrini Michkov class on release day. I wonder what our opinions were. I think I got to tune into that.
Michkov is probably lower than Michkov is definitely lower than he was on release day.
I think I sold one for $180.
Yeah, Celebrini opposite though. Like Celebrini's up, way up since release. Like I think Celebrini was at like the 200 range, maybe on release, 250, maybe max. He got down to like 100-ish, 100 to 125 throughout the summer, and then obviously started the season on a tear, carried it all the way through till the end of the year. And now I think it's finally starting to kind of mellow out around. It got as high as like 5. I think now you're seeing it in the 450 range since he's been out of the postseason, out of the limelight, especially after Canada completely collapsed at the World Championships, which he was the captain of. But yeah, he's the exception to the rule. I mean, even look at like Series 1 and Series 2 from this year. Like I went back and took a peek just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. Ivan Demidov, that thing was like a $300 to $350 card when it first came out on release day. You can buy this Young Guns for $125 now, maybe even cheaper if you can find it, at a show with a 125 sticker. You could maybe even offer 100, and you might be able to snag it for $100. Jimmy Snuggerud, $60 Young Gun on release day, like 10 to 15 bucks now. Zane Parekh, people were going after Zane Parekh, thinking he was going to be some stud point producing blue liner. Still might be, but he's only a $15 Young Gun now. And those are guys from Series 1. Matthew Schaefer has already gone down in pricing, Anthony. Was a $350 card on release day, down to $280. His last sale on his Young Guns. Multiple sales in the $250 to $300 range. He's kind of stayed up relative to like Demidov, but now that this next crop of rookies is out there, I think we could see some more decrease in his market. But look at Michael Misa, went from $100 to a $40 Young Gun. Ben Kindle, $60 down to a $15 Young Gun. Ryan Leonard, $40, $50 on release day, down to a $15 Young Gun all day long. So just goes to show, guys, don't keep your pee cool. As my old football coach used to say, keep your pee cool. And you can get these cards if you're trying to put together the set. Like, I'm a Young Guns collector. I put together the set every year. I do not go after the cards until they are long gone and out. Usually I'll go back and finish like right now I'm going back and finishing like 24, 25 because those guys are kind of, far and away and you can pick them up for a couple of bucks a piece. It'll be the same with most of these players here today.
And even too, like when you look back at multiple releases throughout the years, it almost feels like maybe there's one or two players that, okay, maybe you missed the boat, should have bought them. But in the grand scheme of things, like for you, you're a big set collector. I know you're trying to get, I believe, all the Young Guns at a release. Over time, I mean, just looking from set to set, if there's one guy that really pops, for example, Celebrini in that set, okay, maybe you're going to end up spending $400 to $550, whatever he is, his market value right now. But you're probably going to save $300 that his card went up through other cards that maybe that used to be, like you said, Ben Kindle, $60. That's ridiculous. I don't even know how he's holding his value at $15 still. I know he did have a decent year, but
a good year, only
still pretty expensive for him.
I don't think that's a bad price to pay for a Ben Kindle. I think that he, $10 to $20 guy. There's still he's 18 years old. He had a pretty good season. I think there's a lot of growth in Ben Kindle as a player. Not that I thought today we go on a Ben Kindle tangent, but this conversation surrounds around the base Young Guns, by the way, the base Young Guns, because I know you wanted to touch on, the base Young Guns. Today's not the day to go after those. But what about the variations, Anthony, and the short prints? What do you think about those being the release date plays?
I definitely think the only variable that I would really look at buying high on some of the Young Guns that came out today, I mean, if you see it in person, if it's pack fresh pulled and you're ready to grade it, but even still, there's nothing from this set that I think I would want to, slam the gas pedal to get to PSA. Besides extremely mint cards that are freshly pulled, I think the variations, like you said, if you could grab an exclusives, a high gloss, an outburst, the red outburst, even a deluxe maybe, these are the cards that in the future you might not be able to touch. So on release day for Celebrini, for example, he was a guy that if you picked up his exclusives, even if you see those around the shows now, which you probably don't, you probably got a pretty good price for it. So some of these guys, you want to keep an eye out on their variations, because even if they do go up down the road, you're probably not going to see them around on the show floor or even on eBay or Facebook groups, wherever you buy your cards.
Yeah, let me just you know what? Let's put that to test actually. Who's a player who you think has kind of stayed relatively flat, or maybe has consistently kept maintained his value? I think Easton Cowan has maintained his value in like the $20 to $30 range for the majority of the year. So why don't we use him for example? If you can find his exclusive Young Guns, let's see if there's been a big drop off. So on release day, his exclusive Young Guns sold for, let's see what the price was on the very first one that dropped. Now, these are all Team Canada. Let's find it here.
Use if you can't find something, use his high gloss as an example.
Oh, I got one. 255. So March 4th, which is on release day, a UD exclusive of Easton Cowan sold for 255. Now his Young Guns at the time was about 30 or so dollars. That's cut in half, which isn't the worst drop for a player, down from 30 to 15. But 255, keep that number in mind for release day exclusive. The last Easton Cowan Young Guns exclusive, 350. So although his base Young Guns has cut in half, his Young Guns exclusive sale has gone up $100. And if you can be first to market, and maybe someone doesn't realize maybe the value of some of these shorter printed variations, sometimes you can get a good deal on release day, and that was an example of one. And maybe there's a guy out there in Series 1 this year and extended this year, probably not the Schaefers or the Fowlers. Those ones are going to be pretty expensive, but like Artur Akhtiamov, I've seen an Akhtiamov exclusive Young Guns. Here's one that I got right now. I know you're shaking your head, but I'm just saying, this is the guys who we're talking about. His sold for $65. I mean, if he becomes the starter for the Maple Leafs in a couple of years, there's a very good chance he could. He's playing excellent for them right now in their Calder Cup run. I mean, you don't think $65? You'll be looking back and thinking, I should have bought that a couple of years ago, when you see them stickered at shows for, 150, 200, $250.
I mean, even still, like for that particular argument, I know we're talking just Leafs guys here, but if Akhtiamov gets called up just sitting on the bench, that card insta goes to $200 instantly.
Yeah, possible. If you can capitalize that quick, yeah.
I love the point that you brought up too for Easton Cowan. If you go search up his high gloss and share the screen too for him, it's one of those things that, like you said, there's always going to be opportunities to make money. And on release day, if you could go on eBay and maybe snipe one of these players that was in I believe our one touch category, just under grading.
Well, that's where I got Akhtiamov. That he was there for us, right?
Exactly. Like if there are guys in that category that you could find on eBay, maybe for $100, maybe it's Berkeley Cadden, maybe it's Denver Barkey. Those are the guys that, if they have 20 goals next season, those cards could double. They could definitely go up in value. Yeah. And if you're looking here on the screen, you got Easton Cowan's Young Gun High Gloss, which started at $1,349. So $1,300 was the first sale for his high gloss. And that recently sold, I believe, a month and a half ago for I believe it was $1,850. So even if you're going to walk around the shows in Toronto, you're probably not going to find a lot of Easton Cowan high glosses. And if you do, I can't even imagine someone going under $2,000 right now. If you remember, I wanted to buy that card. I don't know. We were on the phone and we were talking. I believe I offered Sam decent cash price, but I think he had a higher offer in front of me, which kind of caught me off guard. But Easton
Cowan, he did. That's who sold that one for 18. That was
that was the card. Yeah, that was the card.
Yeah, it was the exact card. So so like again, that's a card where, similar to the exclusive, sure, the base went down, but the low print ones like that, if you can set the market and maybe get it a little bit under, it could really work out. So that's kind of the release day advice that we have. The base Young Guns, stay away from them. You can pick those up later at a fraction of the costs. But if you want to make some plays on some players you like, maybe go after their variation Young Guns instead. Usually, there's a little bit more opportunity in those than the base Young Guns off the rip. Final couple thoughts that I have from series, extended series. Keep an eye out for photo variations. I pulled a playoff photo variation. Where is it here? Let me pull it out here. So I pulled one and I didn't even realize that I did. It's one of those ones where like it looks like a regular base card. Like this just looks like a regular base card. And I obviously had no idea that it was. Let me see. Let me pull. I gotta do the visual effects. Okay. So yeah, just a regular looking card, right? And I'm looking through my pack. You're supposed to get 3 hits. I only had 2 hits, and I'm like, where's my other card? Where's the other hit? I'm thinking it was probably a Schaefer Young Guns High Gloss in there or an acetate, and it wasn't in there. What the heck? That was my thought process. And then I thought to myself, what if I have a variation? And I turn the cards around, sure enough, and it does say on the back, playoff photo variation, but you got to look for it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who, don't really collect their base. They leave their base behind at the store or they donate them, give them away, whatever. You know how many variations I'm sure have been given away and people don't know. So make sure that you take a look on the back. At least Upper Deck lets you know. Tops, they don't let you know. You're just supposed to know. There's like a little code, but you're supposed to look on the back. At least they will let you know when you got a variation card here. So that's what Logan Thompson, which is your boy, fellow Brock Badger, Logan Thompson. But yeah, I still wish that there was some sort of, I don't know, some sort of indicator on the front of the card when you're just sifting through, like when you see base cards and you're like, there should be a different. You know what they should have done? And granted, they did do it for the regular base cards. Like if a player was at the Four Nations, so for example, Connor McDavid played at the Four Nations, they did get like the Canada logo, right? They did use the jerseys. What if you made these the photo variations instead? And then people are chasing it, and all of a sudden it's the Four Nations photo variation, and you see, Connor McDavid in a Canada sweater, and immediately, oh, that's different. That's different. And it just, then that you have something cool and something that should be considered short printed. Maybe something like that for next year for the Olympics, for those players who are playing in the Olympics. Although I don't think they can use Olympic photos. Now I'm thinking about it. So this was their chance to do that, I suppose. And they didn't. Anyway, that was kind of my one thing that I wanted to tell people. I wish that maybe the photo variations were like the Four Nations ones or something a little bit better. But is what it is. Either way, pretty cool that I pulled a short print variation, even though I didn't realize it at first. I guess you haven't dug into yours quite yet, right? No. So are you ripping it or are you keeping it sealed?
I'm keeping it. Honestly, I think I have the willpower. I don't know, man. I'm sniffing out the 101 Matthew Schaefer. I think it's in there, but I do have the willpower because I want to start collecting a little bit more wax. I think the next target for me, I want to get a box of SP Authentic from Bedard's year. I think that's the next target. I was doing a little bit of research, but I think building a wax collection is going to be a conversation for me for this summer.
I do have 2 Connor McDavid year hobby boxes. If you're interested in one, we could talk.
From SPA?
No, from like Series 1, like his Young Guns year.
Okay. The high gloss is in there. Just give me I don't need 2. Just sell me the one that has the high gloss.
Well, yeah, I want to keep one. Obviously, I wasn't selling it 2.
Just sell me the high gloss one, the one that has the high gloss, because I'm going to
keep one of both. Maybe there's one of both. It's possible.
True.
It's possible. All right. There's a couple things you wanted to get into on today's show as well. So we'll kind of put a bow on the extended series chat for now. Um, you had a couple of things that you wanted to get into. You want to get into the COVID collecting 2.0 conversation right now. Did you want to kind of lay out your thesis for what we're seeing in the hobby?
Man, I called it. I am so happy to say that I called it 2-3 months ago that I still feel like we're early in this, but COVID collecting, I think, is making a return. I think the next year, 8 months, whatever you want to call it, until 2027 is going to be the craziest year, even crazier than COVID, because
Well, what does that
price
mean for you? What does that mean for you? Like,
for
what are
me.
you seeing that makes you say that?
So the number one indicator for me, actually two. The two indicators for me was the casual collector is getting more invested, seeing TikTok reels, Instagram reels, videos, researching, wanting to buy boxes, wanting to get into collecting. I said this maybe like 7 months ago, maybe at the start of the season. No, not 6 months ago. It was like 7 months ago at the start of the season, where a couple of my buddies are starting to get into collecting and buying the right things, but they're learning from Instagram reels. They're learning from King of Cards. I mean, hopefully there's people out there that are learning from us too, right? Watching the pod, listening. And it's almost that new type of COVID collecting where people are starting to buy the right things. And in turn, you're starting to see now the GOATs, man. I don't know if you've seen like Kobe, LeBron,
Oh, I agree,
Shohei, some of these guys, even the Wayne Gretzky
dude.
rookie, there hasn't been a lot of crazy cards coming out from the hockey side of things, but
It's
Wayne
starting.
Gretzky, the GOATs, Bobby Orr, Gordie Howe, Sidney
Lemieux has seen
Crosby,
some big sales. Lemieux has seen some
Lemieux,
big sales
all
recently.
these big cards that are
Yeah.
coming out of these GOATs from the cup on the hockey side. But looking at the other side, the top sports in North America, man, it is going nuclear. Kobe graded stuff. Shohei's market is a entire conversation, an international conversation. It's ridiculous. One of the first indicators for me is that the casual collector is getting into collecting and they're starting to spend money because they're starting to see returns too. And number two is celebrities getting into it. Celebrities opening up shops. We saw that with Tom Brady. He started doing that, I believe, all the way back last February. It's been about over a year now, but different celebrities starting to get into breaks, going to events with Tops, going to events with Upper Deck, seeing players be invested more. You're starting to see, like we talked about, Brady Martin, one of one. He's going after for $5,000. We're starting to see guys like Zach Benson, who is doing rips. We saw Ivan Demidov, who did a rip with that store out in Montreal, which
Yeah.
I thought was awesome. Ended up pulling and signing his young guns, which was really sweet. But
Yeah. Brady Martin's looking for his one-on-one
exactly,
publicly,
exactly. But
in the hobby.
the cherry on top of it all, and maybe you could give me a little bit of a run through of it, is PSA and the announcement that they made 6 days ago, because this is the start. And I love, little shout out here to my boy Eric Aruda. Had a great conversation with him through 18 holes, talking about how the next 8 months are going to be crazy for anything graded. I mean, people don't want the modern PSA 6, PSA 7, but PSA 8, PSA 9s are going to be relevant. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we're going to see a massive surge for PSA 10s and anything coming from Beckett, from SGC, from PSA. Everything's going to go nuclear, I feel.
Yeah. Um, so I agree with a couple of things here. I do think that like the market itself is kind of getting back to like how insane it was during COVID. I think that we have a similar amount of money being thrown around in the market, and I think a lot of big collectors are coming in. Like obviously, you saw Kevin O'Leary come in, Jake Paul's come into the market, and there's plenty others who have who have publicly talked about it. You got lots of athletes who are being shown, at these shows, like specifically going out to shows, whether it's, for Pokemon, for basketball, for baseball, for hockey, whatever it may be. There's just so many people in the hobby. So, I agree that we're seeing the type of money being thrown around. The PSA thing though, I think is interesting. And So obviously, PSA made big news last week when they sent out a memo to everybody saying that they were going to be pausing their lower tier um, grading tiers, essentially bulk and value bulk. They were just going to hit pause and no longer do them because they had a $2.5 million or no, a 10 million card backlog of cards in those two tiers that they weren't getting through. And people continued to send cards in these two tiers and they continued to just grow and grow and grow. And they got to a point where they literally said, okay, stop. We need to put a pause. So they did. And they said, you have until June 2nd until this takes effect, where we are no longer taking in any submissions in the bulk or value bulk tier. Do you know how many cards got sent to PSA in that week that they gave people to get their cards in before this went into effect? 2.5 million. 2.5 million cards got sent in these two tiers alone, the bulk and value bulk, the two cheap ones, relative cheap. Just to give them even more of a backlog, which apparently they say they're going to have like 4 months to get through before they open these back up. If they open them back up, there's also some conspiracies out there that they may never open them back up. And one of those other like SGC or Beckett, those other grading companies that they assumed in the last year or so might turn into the bulk grading spot with lower pricing, and PSA will be more for high end. This is just a theory going on, but it maybe makes a little bit of sense. The issue I have with calling it COVID 2.0 is I believe when the sports card market boomed at the start of COVID, which kind of started that, it was mainly sports cards at that time that was going nuclear at PSA. It's been a lot of Pokemon and TCG that has taken up a lot of what we've seen at PSA that's causing this big backlog. In the last 30 days, PSA has seen 1,432 and 251 cards be submitted under the TCG category. That's more than baseball, basketball, football, hockey, all put together, and by a large margin. That's about almost 3 times as much as those put together. So there's a little bit of of deception when you talk about there being mass grading in the sports card market. Don't get me wrong, we're still seeing a lot of grading happening and people are grading a lot of dumb things. But the reason why it's out of hand at PSA and why we have this 10 million card backlog and why there are no longer bulk and value bulk tiers available, it's because of TCG and all the cards that those people are sending in. So if you're going to use PSA, I guess, as the reason for why the COVID boom is back, I think you got to pump the brakes on that part, just because I don't think we're seeing an abundance of grading and we're seeing all the dumb stuff being graded. Like back in the day, people were sending like second, third year base Luca cards. Like it was insane. People were sending like second year base optic Trey Young cards in to get graded. It was absurd what was being sent in, but it was cheap that you could do that. It's no longer cheap to send in cards, and I think a lot of sports people understand that and aren't even sending in a lot of that really low end stuff anymore, because it's either going to 10 or you're going to lose money at the end of it. There are some 10s out there nowadays that lose money. Like I sold a Bo Bichette Topps paper rookie card for about $15 the other day. If I sent that in to get graded, and I get it, whatever, it's Bo Bichette and there's a billion of them. But if I tried to send that card getting in to get graded, like it's going to cost me $40, $45 to get graded. It's only worth 15 in a 10. Like it's insane. So I think sports people have taken their lumps on that. So they're not necessarily putting, all the super low end cards and not sending a lot of those in. And I think that kind of would maybe, I don't know, make me like pump the brakes on that conversation, how it's like COVID 2.0. But I will say, I think that we're getting to a scenario and a situation where like the amount of transactions and the dollars that are being involved in the the sales being as high as they are kind of reflecting what we saw in COVID.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the funniest videos that I saw talking about, if you just want to share the screen here, was King of Cards when he submitted to PSA. I think so many people in a year from now are going to look back on some of the cards that they're sending out this month. And I know this kind of had like a side story to it for a reason why it's even worse that he got these cards back. But it's these type of cards that are clogging up the system at PSA. And
these ones, I don't think people are sending these ones much anymore. These ones, okay, sure. Like at least they're rookie cards. Like, people are people are sending in like, I don't know. Let me
find base Ohtani cards.
Dude, but like at least Ohtani, like people are sending in like Evan Bouchard, just like a random base card of like a third-year good play. Like I swear to you, there are base Trae Young optic cards from like second-year optic cards. Like it's out there. People were doing this stuff. It's insane. They were going back, finding any base card of Jordan, of Rodman, of Pippen, like any basketball player who showed up in that Michael Jordan documentary. People just sent those cards off to PSA and hope for the best and didn't care what they got in terms of a grade. It was wild. But yeah, here we are. Years later, and PSA has to press pause again, like they did back in the COVID days. But I will say, I think this time around, it's more of the Pokemon people than it is the sports card people that are causing this one.
I'm even looking at the numbers too, courtesy. This is gem rate, and they have the last 30 days. I don't know if you referenced it, 1.4 million on the TCG side.
I did. You just don't listen.
No, well, I wasn't sure if it was the specific numbers. What I was going to say,
1.4 million, which is triple the amount of baseball, basketball, football, and hockey combined.
Even though, and this is the weird part too, because I used to talk to a lot of TCG collectors, just asking questions, trying to get into it. I know you know that side a little bit better, but from what I've heard, TCG collectors don't actually prefer PSA. I believe there's
CGC, but it's no.
Didn't it used to be CG? I know it's PSA, like slamming the hammer on all sides of it for sports.
It used to be like how hockey used to be Beckett,
yeah,
right? Used to be, but now PSA is king, and they've taken over, and that's wherever. Like you look at graded cards yesterday. This is again courtesy of Gem Rate, right? Look at these numbers: 81,500 cards by PSA. CGC came in second at 22,000. And again, that's because they are mainly a TCG grading company. Beckett, 8.7. SGC, 1.9. Tag they're not taking cards in. They put a pause to their submissions as well. But like, just look at the disparity. And yeah, these were the numbers that we're talking about. Look at, this was COVID. This was COVID. This is how many cards were coming in during COVID, and we thought that was a crazy amount, right? Like I remember when it hit like here, and we saw 1.2 million back-to-back months, and it was frontline news. Like PSA hits over 1 million cards in back-to-back months. Are we in a junk slab era? Dude, it's done nothing but go up since. And then we got into a situation where last month, 2.2 million graded cards in the month of April. 2.2 million cards in April.
If you had to project, so skip 5 years from now, view yourself 5 years from now, what is this chart going to look like? Because now we're 5 years past this crazy March 2021 when pretty much things were kind of starting to pick up. Where would you kind of project the trajectory of what this chart would look like?
If you believe the hobby is still alive, I think we continue to see it go up. Because I think people saw it here and thought, we're in a junk slab era now. This is insane. The cards are going to decrease in value because there's so many of them. The pop counts are getting outrageous. And what happened? They just continued to go up. The hobby continued to grow. And here we are. Granted, a lot of this, like I mentioned, is TCG, but like I don't expect for Pokemon to to stop at any moment. I mean, they're having quite the boom. The 30th anniversary set's coming out pretty soon, and that's going to only further increase the grading submissions, I think. And like we're about to have some really good football classes over the next couple of years. I know hockey's expected to have a couple of fun classes in their draft, so some younger players. Yeah, I think it's only going to continue to grow, to be honest with you, over the next 5 years, unless the bubble pops, which is obviously possible. We're not hoping that happens, but it is obviously possible. Go ahead.
So and this is just kind of like big picture question. You've laid out all the facts, what we used to think and what we're looking at now. And obviously there's a bubble, but we were having the same conversation 5 years, and it just seemed like this bubble, per that chart that you just referenced, has doubled or tripled, which is ridiculous considering we were already at a point where it was only going to go down or maybe just level out. So this is more just like,
well, it did go down. Like if you look at the sports card values as a whole, you did see stuff go down, but then it's come back up, and and pretty much gotten right back to where things were from, like you look at the 5-year history of sports cards, and here I can show you this. Let's share this tab. 5-year history of cards. Based off of Card Ladder, and that was in the middle of the boom, we'll call it, of COVID, like June 3rd of 2021. As of then, June 3rd of 2021, we are seeing all of this increase in sports cards, like high-end sports cards up 55%. You're seeing, baseball up 42%. You're seeing football up 20%. You're seeing hockey. Apparently, actually, hockey's down a little bit. Hockey's down 5% over the course of the last 5 years. Funny enough, but basketball is up. So, there are some things that are obviously down, but there are definitely some big stuff, like modern as a whole up 45% in the last 5 years. So, I can only expect for this stuff to kind of continue to trend upward, especially knowing the bodies that are now involved in the market, especially in the higher end market. At least I think that's the biggest difference between this market that has exploded in comparison to maybe the one from COVID. It was all low end, it was all small stuff that sold. Now I think a lot of us are more intelligent, flippers, investors, collectors, and that small flagship stuff doesn't necessarily fly the way that it used to. But I still think that there's a strong collector base, specifically in hockey, and I think we'll be okay over the next few years. I don't think the bubble's going to burst, soon. At least I don't think it's imminent.
I've always been the type of person that is a little bit tentative. I've had this. My brother is turning into the biggest Shohei collector ever, and I keep telling him, like, man, this is the peak of the chart. When you look back 5 years from now, this is the peak of the chart. But man, he digs his heels into the ground, and
I mean, dude, like I said that when they won the World Series back in November, I sold a few big Ohtani pieces I had. They all 4x'd after that. Like people have said, there's the old meme of like, should have invested in Ohtani, should have invested in Ohtani. And it's like 21, 22, 24, 25. And then like November of 2025, I should have invested in Ohtani. And here we are in June, and his, stats and his cards are still going outrageous. And I mean, you could probably even put Macklin Celebrini in that, right? Like last summer, should have invested in Macklin Celebrini.
Dude, I need you to do a Celebrini version of that.
The amount of $200 Macklin Celebrinis I sold at the November Expo is outrageous, and that card has doubled since. And even then, it was like $200 for this. Oh, this is great. I was picking them up over the summer for $100. Even the Thursday night of Expo in November, I was able to pick up two of them for under $160. I got one at $150 and one at I think $140 and $150. I think, as I got two at. And then over the weekend, I was able to get as much as $250 for one. by the Sunday because that market just started to take off. And now if you can find one for 250, you're laughing. It's an absolute steal. So it's a similar story with the GOATs and some of the best guys in the hobby. You could say the same thing about, like Crosby's market starting to explode right now. What you could have got a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5 Young Gun for a year ago, it's far more expensive now for that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's more the higher end has taken a nice uptick, and it's more that low end, those dollar young guns that just sit and no one's buying them anymore. It's far less speculative, which I think is actually healthier for the hobby.
Well, like I said, the GOATs booming. I think the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years are gonna, reflect that. And now's that time where if you're looking at some of these hockey guys, you got to collect the GOATs. If you're looking at other sports, you got to collect the GOATs. What I wanted to ask you before we wrap up here, who's the hockey guy? Because I know you're going to make the Celebrini video now this week. You're going to post it, get that done. I'm going to have a laugh. But who's the guy in hockey besides Celebrini? Should have bought. Who's the guy? I feel like there's a couple options. Like Bedard could be a guy you could talk about. Leo Carlson was the guy, right? Like right now, today, should have bought this guy. Bedard, Leo Carlson comes to mind for me. Cale Makar, another guy. There's a lot of options.
Here's an interesting one. This is one where it's a not necessarily like this type of chart, but like this kind of chart possibly, where it's, are you sitting here a year from now, if Austin Matthews' market can rebound, are you sitting here saying, dang, I should have bought him back in April, should have bought him in June, should have bought him at the start of the year in September before the season started. And then all of a sudden they make the playoffs. Maybe he has a 50-goal season and his market doesn't necessarily get back to where it was, because I don't think it will, but at least gets back to a respectable number. Like it's $1,000 again for a PSA 10. You can get that thing for like $750 right now. So, like, could you be kicking yourself a year from now, being like, I knew it, I should have picked it up when he got super low. It got to a point of where it was, a good buy, and I didn't pull the trigger. Maybe I think that it's possible, especially if they bring in a guy like Gavin McKenna in the draft. I think it's possible he could be one of those players. But that's a bit more of like a different chart, I suppose. If you're talking about a sleeper, it's so hard because like they're sleepers, right? Like if I had the answer, I guess I'd keep it to myself and probably just load up on these guys. You know what I mean? Like, do you have one, or is this homework for the week? And maybe we can answer this on next week's pod.
You know what? There's a couple guys for me. I think the number one guy, Connor McDavid. I think this season it's due time. Big picture stuff that I wanted to touch before, like the health of the hobby in the next 5 years. I think that Connor Bedard rocket season's coming. Celebrini getting the torch passed to him from Sidney Crosby is something that we're going to see in the next 2-3 years. I mean, we already kind of saw it at the Worlds. I don't know if it was like a true passing of the torch. Connor McDavid hopefully winning a cup in the next 5 years is something that could happen. The Leafs are likely going to be relevant to get. I mean, they have to. They don't have their first round pick in the next 2 years, taking Gavin McKenna hopefully. I think there's a lot of talent, a lot of options, but I think Connor McDavid winning the cup would just solidify his legacy and be a massive, massive profit for collectors.
I wonder if Demidov's gotten to a point where maybe at $100, could he be a guy where it's like, should have bought him at 100 because next year, year 2 in the league, the Canadians, they take what happened this season and they work on it and they come back next year bigger, better, stronger. And a guy like Demidov, in his second full season in the league, takes that next step, and all of a sudden, in a market like that, his stuff starts to pop off. Similar to the way we saw Slafkovsky's stuff pop off at the end of the year when he got going. Maybe Demidov could be that guy. If he slips below $100 in the summer, maybe that could be a guy where it's, a little sneaky play with some future upside, perhaps. Maybe that's a random guy that I thought of. I'll put some more thought into it and give you a better answer next week. How about that? A little homework for me this week.
I like it.
All right. Any pickups this week?
You know what? I did pick up, and I was going to talk about him today. Did a little bit of DD, a little bit of due diligence. Didn't like my take as much as I initially texted to the boys, but I picked up this Steven Stamkos sticker auto. Love his autograph. In a nutshell, Steven Stamkos is a decent buy, future Hall of Famer, I think for sure. But his cards were like I was referencing it compared to a couple other guys, and his market is in a pretty decent space, considering he's probably on the tail end of his career in the next 2, 3, 4 years. But he just had a great season in Nashville. But there's a lot of nice Steven Stamkos cards that I think I want to start looking into because he has a beauty autograph. All of those patches from Tampa are so nice and like relatively reasonably priced. I mean, I think 6 or 7 months ago, you probably could have picked up a better deal for Stamkos stuff. But I didn't love my take. I'm not as bullish on it.
I can't believe you withered away. I was going to bring this up in the summer and make you make your take in the summer, a little summer chat, because I know that you sent in. So we're working on a new segment called "What's in the Group Chat," and Big Tone over here sent in a random text, just literally randomly saying Stamkos's market is undervalued. And today's not the day that I'm going to ask you to make that kind of make the case. And I know you kind of did a little bit here, but I will ask you to make that at some point this off season when we're looking for content.
Oh, geez. Especially to quote my text, it is K, not joking, but Stamkos's market is kind of undervalued. And the reply was Hart Trophy candidate for sure. So thanks for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah. What was the other one? Something about your boy Mackenzie Blackwood. How did he finish in the Conn Smythe?
Yes, Mackenzie Blackwood did. Well, I guess the playoffs aren't over, but he didn't win the Conn Smythe. So we don't know who won it yet, but it's probably not going to be him.
A good chance. Good chance. I didn't pick up much hockey this week, but I actually, talking about, the GOAT buys, I did get a couple of GOAT plays. I picked up this really cool Michael Jordan PSA 8 Metal Universe, which is a sweet looking card. Just like him with a basketball on fire. So sick. I just absolutely adore Metal Universe from the 80s. Talk about another absolute GOAT all-timer. Well, Tiger Woods PSA 10 rookie card of Tiger Woods. And then not a GOAT of the past, but a future GOAT potentially. Picked up this Wemby the day of Game 7, and the value doubled overnight after they won Game 7. So that was a good play by me, picking this bad boy up. I got a few Wembys available and for sale, by the way. If anyone is interested, I've got a nice little collection of graded Victor Wembanyama's, including this one.
Hey, he's got a wedding. He's got a wedding to pay for, so hit him up.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. All right, buddy. There is the 360 card show this weekend in the GTA. So if anyone is looking for something this weekend, that is Saturday and Sunday. So you can go check that out. I possibly might show up there on the Sunday. Got plans on Saturday, or maybe vice versa. I had to figure it out. But I know my boy Carlo Koliakovo is going to be down there, so maybe try and link up with him while I'm there at the show. So if you are going there, make sure you say hello to myself if you see me walking around. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe right here on YouTube. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Hockey Card Haven Podcast.